The Trump administration's controversial use of the obscure Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan immigrants has reached the Supreme Court, igniting a fierce legal battle over due process and national security. The administration's desperate plea for intervention follows a stinging rebuke from a federal appeals court, which upheld a lower court's temporary block on these expedited deportations. This high-stakes legal drama underscores a fundamental clash between the government's assertion of wartime powers and the fundamental rights of individuals facing deportation. The saga began on March 15th when the Trump administration, invoking the rarely used Alien Enemies Act, a relic from a bygone era, initiated a mass expulsion of nearly 300 Venezuelan immigrants. The administration's justification? These individuals, allegedly members of the notorious Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, posed a threat to national security, having supposedly infiltrated the United States at the behest of the Venezuelan government. This claim, however, lacks concrete evidence, fueling skepticism and raising serious concerns about the fairness and legitimacy of the deportations. The administration's actions bypass the standard due process afforded to immigrants facing deportation, circumventing the right to a court hearing and legal representation. This blatant disregard for established legal procedures sparked immediate outrage and swift legal action. Attorneys representing the affected immigrants filed an emergency motion to halt the deportations, highlighting the arbitrary and potentially unlawful nature of the government's actions. Even as the planes carrying these deportees were airborne, a federal judge in Washington, D.C. issued a temporary restraining order, effectively blocking the further use of the Alien Enemies Act for these expulsions. However, the damage was done. The immigrants were already beyond the reach of U.S. jurisdiction. The government's claim of a rigorous process to identify gang members is increasingly being challenged by credible reports and eyewitness accounts. Numerous family members of the deported individuals vehemently deny any gang affiliations, casting a long shadow of doubt on the administration's assertions. These conflicting narratives paint a picture of a process riddled with potential errors and injustices. The sheer volume of deportations, nearly 300 individuals, further underscores the potential for widespread misidentification and the devastating consequences for families separated and left in limbo. The appeals court's decision to uphold the lower court's injunction served as a critical legal setback for the Trump administration. The court implicitly recognized the serious concerns surrounding the administration's actions, highlighting the potential for abuse of power inherent in the unchecked application of the Alien Enemies Act. The court's ruling emphasized the importance of due process, even in situations involving national security concerns. The judges effectively stated that the government cannot simply bypass established legal frameworks to achieve its immigration goals. This decision reinforced the principle that every individual, regardless of their immigration status, is entitled to a fair hearing before facing deportation. The administration's subsequent appeal to the Supreme Court represents a last-ditch effort to salvage its controversial deportation policy. By seeking the highest court's intervention, the administration is essentially challenging the established legal precedent surrounding due process and the application of wartime statutes in peacetime. This escalation of the legal battle signals the administration's deep commitment to its policy, even in the face of mounting legal challenges and growing public criticism. The Supreme Court's decision will have significant implications not only for the affected Venezuelan immigrants, but also for the broader legal framework governing immigration enforcement and the application of extraordinary wartime powers. This case extends far beyond the immediate circumstances of the deported Venezuelan immigrants. It raises fundamental questions about the balance between national security and individual rights, the appropriate application of wartime statutes in a peacetime context, and the potential for abuse of power within the immigration system. The Supreme Court's decision will shape the future trajectory of immigration policy and set a crucial precedent for future cases involving similar circumstances. The potential ramifications extend beyond the current administration, shaping how future governments approach national security and immigration enforcement. The case also underscores the importance of rigorous due process and the need for transparency and accountability in government actions, particularly those impacting fundamental human rights. The accusations of gang affiliation need to be thoroughly investigated and verified, ensuring that innocent individuals are not unjustly punished. The lack of clear evidence and the conflicting testimonies raise alarming concerns about the fairness and accuracy of the government's identification process. A fair and impartial investigation is crucial to address the concerns raised by the families of those deported and to ensure that justice prevails. The legal battle surrounding the deportation of Venezuelan immigrants serves as a stark reminder of the complex and often fraught relationship between national security concerns and the fundamental rights of individuals. The case highlights the ongoing tension between the government's desire to protect national interests and the imperative to uphold the principles of due process and justice for all. The Supreme Court's decision will be closely watched not only in the United States, but also internationally, as it carries profound implications for the protection of human rights in the face of national security concerns. The outcome will significantly influence the interpretation and application of wartime statutes and establish vital precedents regarding due process in immigration cases. The eyes of the world are on the Supreme Court as it grapples with this monumental challenge.